this is your first time, how I do these sessions is I channel intuitively into the week ahead. So I always frame it as it's the next 6 to 7 days. So today's the 17th, so it goes into next Monday, which will be our final week of February already. And today I've pulled 2 different cards. How I always do the readings is I pull the cards and I leave them face down. So you'll see my reaction as I flip the cards over in real time and I contextualize them in the reading itself. One of the main questions that people tend to have around card readings is there's a lot of different ways that you can do them. And this is just the system I have. I wasn't taught it in particular, but it's just the process that works for me. Is I always start intuitively and then I use the cards just to supplement. So they either will validate, so they'll have messaging on it that echoes exactly what I just said and channeled, or it adds on a supplementary piece and I can use that to expand on the message or add another dimension to it. So also in my readings, like for my own business, when I do one-on-one readings with people, I've had it come up like, oh, I have to be in person, have to like touch the card. I'm like, you don't have to touch the cards. I'd touch the cards. So that's a whole other thing that you do see that like people will like, fan a deck out and have people pick them or do like certain spread. That's just currently not how I read. Is I know, okay, here's the card. Like I did it. You might have seen it earlier. I was shuffling when I was doing my quick intro at the beginning and I just knew which cards to pull. And then I knew when I was done that today we only have 2 cards. So sometimes we have more, sometimes we have pairings. I believe last week we had a single card for reading 1 and then we had a pairing for reading 2. Today it's just 1 card for each of the 2 readings. So that's just a little bit on how my reading style is when it comes to these cards. So if you've attended enough of these classes, you've seen me do this for months. I also like to clarify that with these readings, because they're the next 6 to 7 days, you may find that when I start, you're already in it. You resonate right now. What I'm describing is where you're at in this moment. And for other people, it may just be how your week unfolds. So every single person's journey through the week is different. I'm reading for a collective. I'm reading for everybody who ends up joining this call for the typically hour plus that we are on here. So that's a lot of people that could be coming in and out. And it's for the entire group of anybody who's going to tune into this, watch this, or even follow up and see my notes on social because I post recaps. So what I like to do before I start is give everybody an opportunity to use your intuition. Sorry, I'm like distracted by the little wispies in my hair. I like to give everybody an opportunity to test your intuition. And by test, I mean practice, experiment with, attune to your intuition. And I do that by showing the backs of each of the cards a few times. If you feel different when each of the cards are shown, maybe you feel more open for one of them, that will be the indicator that it's for you. You could also use divination questions. That's what I like doing. You'll hear me do that at different points during today's readings. So you could ask, is this card for me? And you're feeling for, sensing, listening for a yes or no. And I'll do this over and over and over again. So you can have multiple cracks at attempting all this stuff. And as I mentioned before, I don't look at the cards. So I always, oh, hey, Stephanie. I will put, I put my hand here because I'm blocking the card and I am keeping it in my periphery. So I'm still not seeing what the front of the card is. So this is card number 1. So this will be the first reading that we're starting with today. And I'll show these a few times for varying lengths of time, just to give you an opportunity to feel for contrast. And this is the second card for the second reading. Here's card number 1. And card number 2. And as you're sensing anything, knowing anything, feeling anything, You can throw your number in the chat. As a reminder, the deck that we're using today is the Moonology Manifestation Oracle deck. For context, what you will see in these cards is there's lunar imagery. So there's 4 different moon phases that are included in these cards. And then there's also a mix of astrology in here where there's a moon sign that's affiliated with the card. And then, of course, they all have mantras, as many, many Oracle decks do. Again, here's card number 1. Yeah, it looks like right now we have a lot of people saying number 2. That happened last week. Lots of people saying number 2. So this is an experiment in trusting your gut. How can you tune out maybe what other people are saying or thinking? This is 1. This is 2. For anyone unfamiliar, I also do monthly psychic development classes on Insight Timer. So those are Q&As. Really, any of my classes, I'm always open to people asking questions. I will go on tangents, sharing stories about things, but those classes are specifically designed for Q&As. And we do psychic development games. So I pick some different activities that allow you to practice listening to your intuition using the different psychic clairs. But I've been doing those once a month for quite some time now. So they're usually pretty fun. They're very interactive. So I do have some different types of classes on here for sure. This is card number 1. This is the last time I'm showing them. Card number 1. And then card number 2. Yeah, Rebecca, if you haven't attended before, I definitely recommend. I mean, I know I'm teaching it and I like people to go to my classes, but I usually get very good feedback. People like, oh my gosh, this is so fun. Like they're really enjoying it. So the idea is, can you practice tuning in? Can you practice filtering out noise of what's happening in the chat or what you think I might do? Like, okay, what might she draw? What music might she listen to? So how can you shed prejudices or judgments or social norms or anything, any narratives that you may be carrying, or your own internal thoughts, having imposter syndrome about any of it? There's a lot that you have to contend with to listen to your intuition, just because of how culture, society, and just generally how our minds work. Collective reading. So we're starting with card number 1. And here we go. So we're looking ahead into the next 6 to 7 days. Part of me framing it as 6 to 7 is it accounts for time zones. So maybe you're already towards the end of the day today. So you're pretty much at a 6 day. Or maybe it's earlier in the day for you. So you have more of a full day of energy that you can work with. So first, let me move this card totally out of the way, apparently. I'm getting that there's a lot of energy around this card. It feels very active and productive, or encouragement to be productive, maybe. Maybe something you're struggling with, but the energy behind this first card is like executing things, like getting stuff done. So I'm going to look and see if I can get any specific visuals here. For those of you who have attended my classes before, most of the time what will happen is I'll see some sort of images and I'll describe the scene, and maybe it's playing out and I'm interacting with the energy. And sometimes I get mostly words, fully formed phrases that come through and I share that. I wasn't even really getting an image. It was just the sense about the card. So that either is a claircognizance if I'm just knowing the information, or I'm feeling the energy, clairsentience in some capacity of like doing and going. So that's to start how that information came in, just for context for people who are curious to understand how some of this works. So I'm getting a distinction here that this isn't a like boss-like energy of I'm in charge, I'm running things. As I said that, what came in was like, you're actually realizing you're not in charge this week. So it's maybe a little bit of a tough pill to swallow. So you're productive, you're wanting to get things done, you're wanting to accomplish, but you're being checked a bit here that, by the way, you're not fully running things. So you can do what you want to do, what you need to do. It feels like there's definitely more of a acting from necessity piece. So you're focused on things that you need to get done that are super important, crucial for you to work through this week. And it feels like a curtain is being drawn back, so you're seeing, it's like the wizard behind the curtain, like who's really in charge, what's really going on this week. And I'm asking, like, how do you feel about it? What's your response? Or are you knowing this right off the jump? Or are you finding out? Are you disillusioned at some point? And it doesn't feel like there's any particular moment where you are disillusioned. It feels a little bit more ongoing. Um, um, what's coming in is its feelings of disenfranchisement. Like, on one hand, you are motivated and you want to accomplish things. And on the other hand, you're just like, oh, like just kind of frustrated with how things are going and systems are working, and it feels defeatist in some capacity, but you have personal drive. So it feels like the sense of defeatism is more tied to the reckoning of your role as an individual versus the full big picture here. So this is pretty like meta stuff that you're thinking about and just dealing with and processing throughout the week. I'm getting a lot of scenes of like photography, which is interesting. It seems to me like it's more around this idea of like capturing moments as they're passing. I'm trying to get the thread here of how this is tying in with what we've been talking about, like what you're executing to. Because if you're acting from necessity, someone might hear, oh, like stopping and taking pictures, that doesn't feel like a necessity. But in essence, it is. There's something really powerful about what you're capturing. So symbolically, like what it means. And it's not about capturing the stage of life. It's about capturing very specific moments. Not necessarily milestones, moments. It's this idea of capturing moments as you are living them, even if they feel particularly mundane, but it does feel like some people are capturing moments that are really important. Like memories or things that you're going to look back on. Okay. I can finally flip this over. All right, we have last quarter moon in Aries. Work through your feelings. What's interesting here is we're talking about definitely processing. Theme for this week is you are processing what is going on, how you are feeling about things. Is it leaving you feeling powerful, disenfranchised, frustrated, grateful if you're capturing moments? So you're getting all of these different flavors of states of being and emotional processing for sure. That's clear from the reading. To me, this doesn't feel like this is necessarily adding any other additional context. It's just reaffirming the stuff that I was talking about before. So you are considering what is going on around you. How are you as an individual? Aries is about me as the person. How are you as an individual versus what's going on elsewhere? What do you have power over? What are you passionate about? What are you focused on? What are you driven by? But I'm going to pretty much, yeah. Hey BD, so I've only completed the first reading. So this is the first card. I was just about to pivot to the second card. So as we're going, I will recap. So I will come back and recap this card again. And typically what happens is when we do the individual readings that will come a little bit later, because I'm reading the group with these collective cards, there often are themes that repeat. So even if you're unclear now how card number 1 might resonate, it may actually, in fact, resonate for you just in the context of a specific life example. Okay, so wow. I'm still hung up on you're realizing you're actually not in charge. I mean, that's a bit of a tough one for this week, but Aries is up for the challenge. I'm getting right away that this is different, totally different energy. Feels like buzzy. There's like a buzzy sensation, like a hum to it. I know we were talking about being very active for this first card, like you're seeking to accomplish things, but it doesn't necessarily feel like this is a one-to-one, because with the buzzing and the humming, I'm like, oh, is it like busy bee? Is it you are kind of running around doing stuff? It feels more frenetic. It feels more like it's internal. What's going on here? Okay. Let me see. Yeah, what I'm seeing is it's like the profile of somebody's head, and you're kind of like looking into their brain. And then there's just like a person in there, like running, like they're running on a treadmill or hamster wheel. So it's like brain is on absolute overdrive. And for some people, it feels like there's a little bit of a panic mode, like it's a fear response, like it's a flight response. Because it's in the mind, mental overexertion. To me, I would wonder if that has to do with running through different scenarios or just general anxiety. And I'm getting here that there's a lot of different, it's a choose your own. Feels like it's a buffet, that there's so many different options of what this could represent mentally for you, that you could have a little bit of everything on your plate. You could just be, a full plate, full dish of anxiety, and maybe that's how it's manifesting for you. And other people may be drawing from different versions of this. And some of you go back for seconds. That's how it came in. So this one is really heavy in recommended practices. So if we know this, you always have the choice to decide what you put on your plate. When this is the metaphor we have here, the visual is that you're at a buffet. So if you're at a buffet, you can choose, what do I want to put on my plate? And you can choose whether or not you want to or should go back for seconds in this example. Okay, so at minimum, what I'm seeing here is, well, maybe you should put broccoli on your plate instead. Like there's a piece here of, you actually know what's good for you, and you can decide to not fuel it's okay to have anxiety. It's okay to be afraid. It's okay to feel unsettled. It's okay to be stressed. All of those things. But it is also within your power to decide what you are putting on your plate, what you are consuming, what you are taking in, what you are reinforcing. And you can make little adjustments, put some different things on your plate, or quote unquote, not go back for seconds in some of these situations so that you're not feeding it. You're not fueling those really charged emotions. And I'm getting like, and like take a sip of water too. Maybe you're actually just thirsty and you're not even hungry. Like you may be tending to the wrong needs because the wires are crossed. You're like a little off, like with some of the receptors. You have these feelings, you have these thoughts, things that are racing, things that are keeping you on a treadmill in your mind, are causing you to overheat, are causing you to overexert, but you have the option, it is within your power to not keep feeding that, to get yourself off that treadmill faster or in general by making some choices that you already know are healthier for you than what you are currently doing. As the comparison here, really what we're having imagery wise is somebody that's exerting themselves, running on the treadmill of your mind. And what you're being asked to do is actually check in with your body. So if it's about, this is a metaphor of like what you're eating or what you're drinking, what you're consuming, what's actually happening energetically with your body. So energetically in the spiritual sense, but like literally, like water, food, that's fuel. So how are you fueling your body? Are you fueling your body properly so that it can run efficiently and it can run happily? Ah, okay. This also makes sense. So the card that we have here, somebody mentioned Sagittarius earlier. You were spot on. Full moon in Sagittarius. See the bigger picture. What I will note about these two cards that we picked today, both fire signs, and they both were really just echoing what I already said in the reading. So in this situation, we're focusing on the mind. You're kind of in your own reality that you are creating for yourself. How can you step out of that? And what really matters, big picture wise, is what is your body actually doing, actually feeling, actually experiencing? How can you ground into that? How can you connect with it? How can you pay attention? How can you take better care of it? Because that matters more, if you will. It has a direct effect. What you're doing with your mind can be a direct effect of what's happening with your body and how you're treating your body. So, way to kind of circumvent or stop the cycle is to come back to what's going on in your body and attending to those needs. And then you can have more clarity. Really great example, something that happens for me, I know for some people. You're really anxious, you are frustrated, you're stewing over something, whatever it is, and moving, just like going for a walk for like 5 minutes. All of a sudden, it's like your brain is clear. So by connecting to something in your body, it can help you gain some clarity with your mind, because the battle for card number 2 is you are battling within your own mind. You're overexerting yourself. So how can you break the cycle and step out of it? And you step out of it with making healthier choices that you are aware are healthier. You've been choosing not to do them. Healthier choices and identifying the root causes, the root needs, because you may be tending to one thing, but you should actually be attending to something else. So again, this card was, and I will show the full deck in a second. This card was full moon in Sagittarius. And the moon, so there are multiple Moonology decks. So this one is the Manifestation deck. So it's the purple one. Yeah, every single one is different. And I when I was looking them up, I just was particularly drawn to this one. And I've enjoyed it since I've been using it. So let's do a quick recap here. So for anyone who missed, you didn't miss, you weren't late, I'm recapping. Card number 1, first reading. You're welcome. First reading was the very active, executing tasks energy, forward motion, mixed with a sense of disillusionment, recognition that you are, quote, not actually in charge, that there are forces that are impacting your life, situation, circumstances, and you're recognizing your place as an individual in the bigger picture. Interesting. And there was also encouragement here. So the inspired action for this first reading, I realize I'm not showing the card, the inspired action for this first reading was taking pictures of things or trying to capture certain moments. And the framing here was that it's not about necessarily capturing milestones. Maybe for some people it's milestones, but capturing moments. There's something about moments that you are living right now, even if it's mundane, but there seems to be some particular value in capturing those moments. In some ways, it could be helping with your processing, because what you're doing is you are processing how you're feeling this week. How is your energy active? Or if you're feeling disillusioned, then working through that. How is that making you feel? Not putting it under the rug. With these pictures, things that you are taking snapshots of, what's the gratitude? What's the joy in that? How can you capture what you're feeling and make sure that you are fully attending to that? So I'm just realizing this now. This first reading is about attending to your emotional state, springing from something going on in your mind. You're realizing something. And then the second card is you're tending to your body, also because of something in your mind. But this one was much more mind heavy. The first one was about like realizations, and the second one is like how your mind is processing. So if you are someone who rides the line between these two cards, you could be starting the week. You're having some realizations. You're having to really process how you think about this stuff and how you feel about it. And then you could get in your head and you could feel afraid or frustrated or stressed, anxious, whatever it is. And then you're having to deal with the aftermath of that. So as an example, that's a clear storyline if you are someone who works through both of these cards in 1 week. Alternatively, you could just be focused on one versus the other. But if you are in the two, things are being kicked up at the start of the week emotionally. So you're taking action, things come up emotionally, and then you're processing it and you kind of get into your head. And how do you relieve that? You relieve that by coming full circle, coming back to what your body is doing. This card again was full moon in Sagittarius. See the bigger picture. For this reading, it was the buzzy sensation, buzzy energy, your mind. You're on a treadmill within your own mind, stressed, afraid, anxious, whatever it is for you. But you have the choice to, at the buffet, put something different on your plate or not go back for seconds, or only go back for seconds if it's something healthy and it's something that you know is healthy for you. And there's also an acknowledgement here that potentially you think that you are tending to certain needs, but maybe you're missing others that are actually calling for your attention. So this second reading is about really tending to your bodily needs, your rest, your grounding, getting clarity through your body to calm the mind. Whew. Yes, those are our 2 readings for the week ahead.